Hi guys, it's Sophie. So I thought I'd film a video today just packing some books together that I'm going to be taking away for a little bit of a holiday that we're going on. It's going to be Wit's first holiday away, which is super exciting. And we're going on to like this big family adventure with my mum, my stepdad, my two brothers, their two partners, and one of my brothers has a little girl as well. So it's our first like three-generational holiday that we're going on together, which I think is really, really exciting. It definitely reminds me of when I was little and going on holiday with my grandparents. So we're going to stay in a house by the sea in Cornwall, which will be amazing. But the weather's pants, so the kind of brief that my mum's given us is lots of books and lots of inside games. So I thought I'd talk to you about the books I'm going to bring. And it was a bit weird choosing the books this time. So usually whenever I go away, I bring a book a day plus a book. So even though I wouldn't read all of those realistically in the length of every holiday I go on, it gives me like a good set of a TBR to pull from whilst I'm away. And if I don't get on with the book, there's no pressure to kind of feel I have to continue with it. There's always lots of choices while I'm there. But with a baby, with a newborn baby, I'm not quite sure how ambitious I'm going to be. But we're away for seven days, 7 nights. So usually I take 8 books and I've chosen 6 to bring with me this time. I in no way think I'm going to have finished these 6 books by the time we come home, but it feels like a nice set that I can look through. And I thought it'd be fun just to share what have I got that's there, what am I kind of looking to read through next. So if I talk about fiction first, the first one that I definitely know I'll take with me because I'm about to start it this afternoon is Butter. That's by Asio Yuzuki, sorry. And this one Tom actually picked out for me today. He said it was the book that he thought had the most striking cover on my TBR, which is quite interesting. I would have probably chosen a different book, though I think this cover's absolutely fab. And this one is about a woman who has been convicted of the serial murders of lonely businessmen in Japan. She's a gourmet cook and has been notoriously reluctant to tell her story, to talk to anyone in the press. That changes when she meets a journalist who reaches out to her rather than through the conversation about murder, through a conversation about food. And I think some parts of this book have been marketed as if it's a thriller, but I think it, from what I understand, it more is looking at the relationship between these women, sort of gender roles in Japan, fat phobia, and also our relationship with true crime. So I haven't actually started this one yet, but I definitely will be taking this one with me because I'm about to make my way through it this afternoon. And then the next one I'm definitely going to take is Blue Sisters. That's by Coco Malors. And this one I'm reading, having missed out on Cleopatra and Frankenstein a little bit through like the buzzy hype of it, and hoping to kind of make my way into it. But I think I need to read it soon or else I may get the same fear that I had with Cleopatra and Frankenstein that I get with popular books sometimes. This one follows 3 sisters, all of whom are in quite different spaces in life. So we have the oldest sister, whose name is Avery. He's a lawyer and is a typical eldest daughter. We have, is it Bonnie? Yeah, he's a boxer, more of kind of a tomboy. And the youngest of the sisters, Lucky, he's a model in Paris and is like hard partying, like just going all out in that kind of sometimes younger sibling way. And really we're following these 3 girls as they're navigating the loss of their 4th sister. And I'm kind of curious as to where they fall within that hierarchy, whether they're another middle sister or whether they should have been the youngest or oldest. I think that'll be quite an interesting one. But it's going to navigate, I suspect, the relationships between these 3 women as they process their grief and the loss of this 4th part of their trifecta in their family. So yes, that's Blue Sisters. I'm excited for that one. And then the last fiction I'm pretty sure I'm going to take with me is The Illness Lesson, and that's by Claire Beams. This one I picked up fairly recently in an indie bookshop, and the bit that really drew me to it is it follows a selection of girls who are in a schoolhouse, kind of like a quite rural and isolated schoolhouse, who develop a mystery illness. So it says it isn't long before the students manifest bizarre symptoms, rashes, seizures, verbal tics, and night wanderings. In desperation, the school turns to a sinister physician for assistance. Just as Caroline, who's our main character and I think the daughter of the man who owns the school, Caroline's body begins its own betrayal. So yes, I think this one is one that I'm obsessed with, that kind of like fantastical illness or hysteria, conditions that affect large numbers of children or often young girls. That's what drew me to this one, but I think I need to read it fairly soon. Like, it's one of those ones where I think I'll forget that that's the reason I wanted to read it if I don't read it fairly quickly. So yeah, The Illness Lesson is one I'm pretty sure I'll take with me, but potentially if one was going to fall off fiction, I think this is the one that would fall off. And then I have 3 non-fiction that are on my list to take with me. The first of which is Knife by Salman Rushdie. This is looking at the experience of the author having had an attempted assassination made on his life. It's a fairly short book. In fact, how many pages is it? It's probably not very long at all. Yeah, it's sort of just under 200 pages worth of text. And this was actually Tom's second choice for a book for me to pick up to read. And yeah, I think this is one that would be curious, kind of understanding what it's like to have to meditate on that attempted murder and to think about the ways in which you have to write in quite a specific way to be a writer who attracts assassination attempts, and I think that would be quite an interesting part of this book. I don't know whether this would be fully classed as memoir. I mean, I probably would call it memoir, but yes, that's Knife. The next one is my only book that kind of speaks to the theme of where we're going at all, and even then it's not that close really, but that is The Wager by David Grann, and I thought this would be a good one to read whilst looking out at the sea. I thought I could just feel that would be nice and atmospheric, like especially if it is wet and horrid. But this book looks at a shipwreck that occurred in which 2 different sets of survivors have very different accounts of what's happened toward the end of the time on the ship. So one bring themselves back and tout themselves as heroes, the second set accuses the first of being mutineers. So yes, this one's been very buzzy. I talked about this book in another one of my videos and I had lots of comments saying just how much people had enjoyed it. So I'm really hoping that I will too. But I thought, yes, sitting by the sea and reading this book about, you know, treachery and like all of that stuff in that naval context just felt really fun. So yeah, that is The Wager. Then, sorry for the camera angle change, my battery just died, but the last one physically that I'm going to take with me is The Divided Mind by John E. Sarno. And this one I think will be really interesting. It's talking about psychosomatic disorders, so illnesses where the brain and the mind work together to cause the illness. So things like irritable bowel disease or carpal tunnel syndrome, where there's physical sensations and markers, but it also very much relates to how we're feeling in and of ourselves, I think, is my understanding of what the book's about. And yeah, medical non-fiction is probably one of my like really specific subgenres that I read a lot of. Anything medical non-fiction I just eat up. So I'm really excited to read a little bit more about this one, and I also think the cover's really pretty. It reminds me, I'm trying to think what other one it reminds me of. I think, is it The Body Keeps the Score that looks similar to this one? I think it might be. So those are the physical books that I'm going to take with me, I think, away. I expect I will take all of the non-fiction. I was just trying to think if I was going to drop any non-fiction, which one would I drop? I think I probably will take 3 non-fiction. I think I'll take at least the first 2 of the fiction choices. I maybe might drop The Illness Lesson if I don't have space or if I think I'm just being too ambitious. And I will also take my Kindle, so I'm just going to have a quick look on my Kindle and see what I might be potentially picking from there as well. So if I go to my library, at some point I should probably do a like what's on my Kindle type video. But I think In Ordinary Time by Carmel Mahone. I'll put the name in I always put the name, I always write full subtitles, I'll put the name in the subtitles. But In Ordinary Time, which is a non-fiction book, which I've read probably half my way through. And then I also have samples for a couple of books which I might potentially look at starting. So Bright Young Woman is one that I'm kind of drawn to at the minute, by Jessica Knoll. And Brutality is a Love Story by Margot Steins is another one potentially I might want to read a little bit of while we're out there, but we'll see. I think it's always nice to have a Kindle with you as well, just in case like the mood strikes you or you want to read something quite specific having read something else. Yeah, so I'm really excited to go away. It feels a bit surreal going away while he's so tiny, but luckily he's doing a lot better health-wise, and is well enough to be able to go. We are seeing the doctor the day before we go as well, just to double check that everything's fine. But yes, he's going to be hopefully well enough to come and do everything. We'll have a really lovely time as a family, which should be super exciting. And fingers crossed, I'll get some reading done. Who knows how many of these books I'll read in reality, but I'm sure that I'll share a bit more of my thoughts of the ones I do get to when I'm back home again. As always, it's lovely to see you guys and to chat to you about what I'm reading, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye!